This is a good movie. I really like this movie. It's exciting, romantic, and visually stimulating. It has some of the best aerial sequences ever filmed, and there's not a single jet in this movie. I felt tension and excitement when I watched it. It has some of the greatest unknown movie quotes of all time. Unfortunately, it's also a classic example of the Tarzan syndrome. One white guy comes to fix everything for the locals. In this case, it's two white guys and one white woman, but don't let that put you off. Also, this movie can be viewed as a mustache off as we try to determine who had the best stash, Tom Selleck or Wilford Brimley. Hello to all the classic people. I'm glad you're back. I want to welcome any new visitors and let you know that there will be spoilers ahead. Today on Classic Movie Review, we are taking on High Road to China, 1983. For some reason, this film is rated 6.0 on IMDb. It has a 65% score by audiences on RottenTomato.com. The great film critic Roger Ebert killed this film in his review, stating, quote, "High Road to China is not a terrible movie, but it's a lifeless one. It follows some of the forms of Raiders of the Lost Ark without ever finding the comic rhythm. It's directed at a nice, steady pace, but without flair and without the feeling that anything's being risked. And it tells such an absolutely standard story that we never fear for the characters and we hardly ever believe them." Unquote. Actors. Tom Selleck, the man with the great 1980s mustache, played drunken World War I hero Patrick O'Malley. Selleck was first covered in Quigley Down Under 1990, and there will be a link below. When I originally did this review, I was binge watching House of Lies with Don Cheadle. I kept trying to figure out who his boss was. I finally looked it up and was very surprised to find that it was Bess Armstrong, an actress I only remembered from High Road to China 1983. Armstrong played Eve, a self-absorbed, spoiled, rich, rotten socialite. Armstrong was born in Maryland in 1953. She graduated from Brown University with a degree in theater and Latin. So she's a pretty sharp cookie. Armstrong has 72 film and television credits. Her best-known roles are The Four Seasons 1981, Jaws 3D 1983, High Road to China 1983, and Nothing in Common 1986. Jack Weston played Struts, an airplane mechanic and devoted companion of O'Malley. Weston was born in Ohio in 1924. Weston started acting at the age of 10. He stayed active with the Cleveland Playhouse until he was drafted into World War II at the age of 19. He served 2 years in Italy as a machine gunner in an Army infantry company. Following the war, he went to New York and began working on Broadway. His first movie was Stage Struck, 1958, with Henry Fonda. He made about 24 movies and was very active on television. I first remember him from the Doris Day film, Please Don't Eat the Daisies, 1960. He was in The Honeymoon Machine, 1961, The Cincinnati Kid, 1965, a terrific film with Steve McQueen, Edward G. Robinson, and Anne Margaret, The Thomas Crown Affair, 1968, Wait Until Dark, 1967, Cactus Flower, 1969, The Four Seasons, 1981, Burt Reynolds' Gator, 1976, and the good/bad Istar, 1987. Weston died in 1996. Wilford Brimley played the subject of the quest, Bradley Tozer. Brimley is an interesting character. He was born in Utah in 1934. He enlisted in the Marine Corps when the Korean conflict broke out, but was stationed in the Aleutians. Brrr. He farmed and rode rodeos until he got too fat. He then became a blacksmith. At some point, he worked as a bodyguard for wealthy loon Howard Hughes. He began acting at the tender age of 45. He was writing and doing stunt work like Richard Farnsworth, mainly in Western movies. Brimley's best-known films are The China Syndrome, 1979, The Electric Horseman, 1979, great soundtrack, Brubaker, 1980, High Road to China, 1983, The Natural, 1984. He worked with Robert Redford a lot. The Thing, 1982, Cocoon, 1985, End of the Line, 1987, where they steal a train, Cocoon, The Return, 1988, where they come back, Hard Target, 1993, The Firm, 1993, and as the narrator of Last of the Dogmen, 1995. Brimley was an accomplished jazz singer, but he is better known for his commercials where he says eating Quaker oats is the right thing to do, and when he pronounces diabetes as diabetes. Robert Marley played the bad guy, Bentinck. Marley was born in 1908 in England. His family educated him for the Foreign Service, but he preferred acting. Morley attended the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London and began stage work in 1929. His first film role was uncredited in Scrooge 1935. His first role on Broadway was in 1938. For his film role in Marie Antoinette 1938, Morley was nominated for an Oscar. He worked on both sides of the Atlantic, and he was great as the weak brother in The African Queen 1951. He worked again with Humphrey Bogart in Beat the Devil 1953. Morley was one of the few people that could take the place of Sidney Greenstreet. Other highlights include Beau Brummel 1954 and Oscar Wilde 1960. He was terrific in Too Many Chefs 1978. Morley had 113 television and film critics. His last film was in 1989, and he died in 1992. I love his attitude. When asked if he would give a talk at his alma mater, Willington, he said he would only return to burn the school down. Brian Blessed played Suleiman Khan. Blessed was born in England in 1936. From a working-class family, Blessed excelled at acting and boxing. He worked odd jobs until he got into the Bristol Old Vic. Blessed was in many plays and made his first movie, The Valiant, 1962. Blessed's film credits include Flash Gordon, 1980, where he played King of the Hawkmen, Voltan.
Oh, well, who wants to live forever?
Henry V, 1980. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, 1991. Much Ado About Nothing, 1993. Hamlet, 1996. Macbeth, 1997. Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, 1999. Voice work in Tarzan, 1999. Alexander, 2004. And As You Like It, 2006. Cassandra Gava played Alyssa, a mysterious Nepalese woman. Gava was born in the U.S. in 1959 and is of Filipino ancestry. She is strikingly beautiful. Her first film role was as a stripper in Hanging on a Star, 1978. However, her first significant role was as a sexy witch in Conan the Barbarian, 1982, which included a love and fight scene with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Her performance in The Black Room, 1982, is well respected. She later was in High Road to China, 1983, and was well cast. She remains busy working in television and has film projects in production. Terry Richards played the role of Ginger, their name, not mine. Richards was born in 1932 in England, beginning with an uncredited role in The Flesh and the Fiends, 1960. Richards has been a successful background bad guy and stuntman. He was in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, The Empire Strikes Back, 1980, as a Wampa, and one of Ming's brutes in Flash Gordon, 1980. However, his most well-known role is that of the sword-wielding Arab man Indiana Jones shoots in Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981. Yeah, that guy. The scene occurred because the sick Harrison Ford didn't want to go through with the fight scene. He pulled his gun and fired. Everyone liked it, and it was kept in the movie. Richards was also in High Road to China, Red Sonja, 1985, Total Recall, 1990, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, 1991. His final film was Tomorrow Never Dies, 1997. He died in 2014. Anthony Chin played Warlord General Wong. Chin was born in Guyana in 1930. He worked extensively in English television in the 1960s and 70s. He played background bad guys in a lot of film. These include Dr. No, 1962, Goldfinger, 1964, You Only Live Twice, 1967, The Pink Panther Strikes Again, 1976, Revenge of the Pink Panther, 1978, and Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981. He got a little more screen time in High Road to China, 1983. Then he was back to the background in films like A View to a Kill, 1985, and The Fifth Element, 1997. If you're looking for hosting, you can't beat Libsyn.com. Use my affiliate link in the description. You can get up to 2 months free on your podcast hosting. Story. A rather stodgy-looking British man is moving through the streets of Istanbul. He is being watched by a series of shady-looking characters that mingle among the cosmopolitan crowd. The man's name is Charlie, Michael Sherd. He is followed to his room by an assassin carrying a Luger. So we know he's a bad guy. When the killer opens the door, Charlie shoots and kills him. The scene switches to a young flapper, Eve Tozer, Bess Armstrong, dancing on a table. This sets the period to the 1920s between the end of the First World War and the Great Depression. Young officers of several nations are in close attendance to Eve. Charlie nervously walks into the party and is greeted warmly by Eve. He asks about her father, Bradley Tozer, Wilford Brimley, whom she hasn't heard from in 3 years. Charlie tells her that her father's business partner, Bentic, Robert Morley, has convinced a judge to declare the missing man dead unless someone can show cause in a British court within the next 12 days. Eve is upset that she will lose all of her money and will no longer be flapping. Ginger, Terry Richards, is lurking outside. Eve decides that she must find her father. She makes a bold request to her military beaux, but they quickly shrink back when she wants to borrow a plane for 2 weeks. One of Eve's married flapper friends tells her about a gigolo she knows who happens to be a World War I American ace named Patrick O'Malley, Tom Selleck. The friend names the bar where he can be found drinking every night. Outside of the bar, Struts, Jack Weston, who is O'Malley's mechanic, best friend, and facilitator, is trying to walk the drunken and penniless pilot home. O'Malley says he feels that luck is just around the corner when a man steps out, punches him, and says, "Stay away from my wife." This is the condition O'Malley is first time Eve and Charlie see him. Feeling that she has no other choice, she goes to the airfield with the drunk pilot and waits for him to wake up in the morning. She finally tires of waiting and douses him with an old glass of wine. Struts comes from working on the plane to market for O'Malley. O'Malley is not interested in flying through Afghanistan towards China. Eve says she can fly the second plane. Even though O'Malley is drunk, he decides to go up. Eve flies the plane and does stunts that even impress the ace pilot. On the ground, O'Malley makes a better deal with Eve. Struts is excited about the trip and the money until O'Malley tells him to mount the Lewis machine guns on the plane. Eve and Charlie go back to the hotel to get her luggage. Ginger is lurking outside. Charlie takes a knife to the belly to give Eve time to get away. The bad guys chase Eve in a car, but she gets to the airfield first. Ginger drives onto the airfield while shooting at the plane. Eve jumps into Dorothy while O'Malley and Struts get into Lillian. The 2 planes are named for the Gish sisters. As the 2 planes fly away, O'Malley thinks the shooter is a husband of one of his female clients. Back in England, Bentic gets word that his agents have failed to stop Eve from beginning her search. At the end of the first day of flying, the 2 planes land at an English airfield in what could be present-day Iran or Pakistan because they are fighting the Waziri. They get into an argument about how to handle the soldiers. Eve wants to use her feminine persuasion, and O'Malley wants to use his knowledge of the military. The officers remember O'Malley from the war. That night, O'Malley entertains the troops with war stories and drinking. When a young officer asks about Verdun, O'Malley becomes somber, saying the German pilots were too young and inexperienced, and that it was just a slaughter. When Eve tells O'Malley that he's had enough to drink, he is pretty rude. The British officers are shocked. The flyers leave in the morning with new fuel and supplies. Bentic learns that they are heading to Afghanistan. Bentic offers a small reward for anyone who could stop Eve and company. In Afghanistan, they land next to a large Waziri camp. They are quickly surrounded by armed horsemen. Suleiman Khan, Brian Bless, arrives and O'Malley is handling everything until Eve speaks up. O'Malley slaps Eve to make her lower her eyes. The Khan is impressed and invites him to his tent to feast.
You'll be my welcome guests for dinner.
Does that mean he's gonna eat us or feed us?
One of the young princes is taken with a golden-haired woman. Wasn't that in King Kong 1933? Eve eventually shows the Khan a picture of her father. He says the man is dead. The Khan hands the picture to Alyssa, Cassandra Gava. The Khan then tells O'Malley that he will use his plane to drop bombs on the English camp. The Khan says his nephew will fly with O'Malley to make sure he doesn't fly away and leave his friends. Alyssa eyes Eve as she holds the picture of Bradley. Later that night, as the 3 Anglos wait, the young prince offers jewels in exchange for Eve. O'Malley handles it pretty well, saying he will consider the offer. Alyssa translates for the group. Eve stops Alyssa, who tells her that her father Bradley is still alive. O'Malley works out an escape plan. Alyssa shows up and says she wants to join the escape. She says Eve's father escaped a year ago and is likely headed to Nepal. Alyssa gets clothes for Eve and Struts. In the morning, they load Lillian with bombs and the nephew gets in the front seat. The plan is based on the nephew not knowing about seat belts. Once in the air, O'Malley puts on his seatbelt. O'Malley flies over the camp, inverts the plane, dropping the nephew and half the bombs on the Khan's tent. The villagers begin shooting at the plane, but O'Malley uses the Lewis gun and the remaining bombs to cover the escape of Eve, Struts, and Alyssa. The three make it to Dorothy. The prince rides up, and when Eve points a gun at him, he bares his chest. She decides not to shoot him. The plane, overloaded with 3 people, gets airborne. O'Malley wants to go back, but Eve heads her plane towards Nepal. O'Malley follows. As they fly east, word of their movement is sent from India. Bentinck has a fit. He tells his aide to contact Major Von Hess in Delhi and tell him to stop Eve. They arrive at Alyssa's village in Nepal. It's a much happier greeting than the last place. Alyssa asks about Bradley and is told he is not there. Eve passes out from stress and exhaustion. O'Malley finds out that there is no booze in the village. Alyssa says that Bradley was there and that an old priest may know where he went. They ask about Bradley, and the old man says he went to China with some people that needed help. He says he will pray to Buddha for their journey. O'Malley asks if there's anything else he can tell them, and the priest replies, "The oxen are slow, but the earth is patient." Using cattle instead of oxen, this has been my favorite quote since 1983. That night, Eve is suffering from a fever. O'Malley holds her through the night to keep her warm. Von Hess takes off in his armed German biplane. When Eve wakes up in the morning, she starts screaming at O'Malley for taking advantage of her while she was sick. Alyssa explains to Eve what happened while Struts has a minor freak out. O'Malley tells Eve where her father is and that she can't go on the last leg of the trip over the Himalayan mountains. Eve is tearing into O'Malley while he is getting ready to go. Suddenly, Von Hess attacks the village, shooting at the planes. Dorothy is destroyed by a bomb, but with Strutt's help, O'Malley gets Lillian into the air. O'Malley is finally having a dogfight against a German of his same caliber. Kind of reminds you of the great Waldo Pepper, right? The link down below. After some beautiful aerial dogfighting scenes, O'Malley shoots and wounds a German who then crashes into a hill. When O'Malley lands, Eve tells him that the people who have been trying to stop them are after her and that it wasn't an irate husband back at the airfield in Istanbul.
Let me get this straight. There are people trying to kill us?
O'Malley says he will go on, but Eve must stay behind. She stands up to him and he finally decides that she can go too. This means Struts will have to be left behind in Nepal. Struts takes the news pretty well. He tells O'Malley to remember, the ox is slow, but the earth is patient. This is followed by some beautiful scenes of a biplane flying over the mountain. Bentinck is informed that Von Hess failed. Eve and O'Malley land near an armed hill village in China. The armed villagers arrest the pair. Inside the fortress, all of the people are preparing for battle. Bradley Tozer walks out a door, backlit by fire from the furnace, and seems unworldly. When Eve sees him, she says, "Daddy." Bradley tells her she is beautiful and looks just like her mother. Eve asks him what he's doing, and he says he's helping with a small war against a local warlord, General Wong, Anthony Chen. O'Malley wants Eve to tell her father why she is there right away. General Wong is shown moving his artillery closer to the hill fort. He also has hostages staked out. Bradley tells Eve and O'Malley that they have to leave before the attack. Eve lies to her father that it's too dark to fly. Eve is taken to a room to clean up, while Bradley gives O'Malley a tour of the defenses. Bradley says he is an explosives expert and has set out over 400 mines. General Wong's cannons start firing on the town. After prompting, O'Malley tells Bradley about Bentinck. Bradley says all of the formulas and patents are in Eve's name and she will have plenty of money even if Bentinck takes the company. O'Malley tells Eve about the conversation and is getting ready to leave. Eve blows a gut when she finds out that O'Malley has told her father. Eve insists that they stay to help her father. When O'Malley goes outside, a shell explodes and he falls to the ground, pretending to be hurt. Eve runs out and she really cares. O'Malley kisses her and she kicks him in the butt. "I think you're pretty and I want a kiss of you." Eve goes the other way, saying they will leave in the morning and that she will pay him off as soon as they reach a bank. That night, O'Malley and Bradley get drunk and bond. Bradley tells O'Malley to get his daughter away from the battle. In the morning, General Wong attacks the village. The first cannon shot wakes O'Malley. Bradley is shocked to see him still there. Just then, Lillian, flown by Eve, cuts around the corner of the skyline. Best scene in the movie. She drops bombs and shoots with the machine gun. O'Malley psychically gives her bombing advice. She has taken pretty heavy ground fire by her third pass.
Too soon! You're dropping him too soon!
She knocks out the enemy cannon, and O'Malley is back in the fight. This is very similar to Rick and Louis getting back in the fight in Casablanca 1942, and the link is below. Eve's plane is hit, and she crash lands in a field. O'Malley takes a pistol and goes after her. He kills a couple of General Wong's men and steals a horse. He makes it to the burning plane, and she is on the ground pretending to be hurt, just like O'Malley did the day before. Her joke is interrupted as General Wong's horsemen begin to attack Eve and O'Malley. The villagers are fighting pretty well as Bradley uses his mines to great effect. O'Malley gets the Lewis gun and covers Eve as she runs to a ditch. This is oddly similar to the Bridges of Tokari 1954. Links in the description. Eventually, Bradley uses a mine to kill General Wong. His men lose the will to fight. Bradley and the villagers have won. The attack against Eve and O'Malley is called off. Eve thanks O'Malley for everything he has done for her. They are trapped without a plane. O'Malley almost lets her walk away, but finally calls her back for the kiss that seals their love.
Put your arms around me.
I guess they have a good life until all their money is lost in the stock market crash. Hey, I want to thank everybody that's sending in those comments. Keep them coming in. I'm getting lots of great information and lots of great recommendations. Thank you. Conclusions. The beautiful aerial vistas of Nepal, China, Turkey, India, and Afghanistan were shot in Yugoslavia, and most were shot within 80 kilometers of the sea. Amazing. This could have been a much different film. The great film noir director and writer John Huston was first selected to direct the film. Huston left the project and was eventually replaced by Brian G. Hutton. Hutton directed, among other films, Where Eagles Dare 1968 and Kelly's Heroes 1970. On that note, I would like to mention my sadness at the passing of Donald Sutherland. I will cover one of his films soon as a tribute. As for the lead cast, the first choices for leads were Roger Moore and Jacqueline Bisset. Bisset was replaced by Bo Derek, but she was dropped because she only wanted to be directed by her husband, John Derek. Moore was forced out due to his scheduling for Octopussy 1983. Thank God. Tom Selleck, who had been considered for the role of Indiana Jones, and Bess Armstrong were finally selected. According to the Guardian newspaper, the film was a, quote, attempt to revive the sort of comedy, adventure, romance in which Clark Gable and Jean Harlow would squabble furiously, but you knew they were really in love, unquote, as seen in films such as China Sea 1935. Or to put it in terms of a movie that I've already reviewed, Bess Armstrong is reported to have described this movie as, it happened one night, 1934, in an airplane. About $500,000 were spent to build 3 World War I replica airplanes. The Visionaire Company of Ypsilanti, Michigan, built the planes to their original specification, but with more robust frames and more powerful engines. There were flyable, stampy SV-4 seat biplanes used for long shots and for close-ups, working with the actors. The planes in the movie were armed with the American-designed, British-built Lewis machine gun. The gun was mounted high on the aircraft's wing because the plane was based on a post-war civilian model airplane, or it didn't have an interrupter that allowed fire through the propeller. This movie is often grouped with the adventure films that followed Raiders of the Lost Ark 1981, links in the description. These films include Sky Pirates 1986, King Solomon's Mine 1985, Alan Quatermain and the Lost City of Gold 1986, Romancing the Stone 1984, and The Jewel of the Nile 1985. That's crazy. Indiana Jones was an academic, and O'Malley was a drunk who could fly. Preposterous. John Barry composed the soundtrack for High Road to China 1983. While known for his work on Bond films, he also provided the music for a pretty good wartime adventure film, Hanover Street 1979. This last film starred Harrison Ford of Raiders of the Lost Ark 1981 fame. Small world. World famous short summary: the cattle are slow, but the earth is patient. Beware the Moors. All right, some boxes are going to appear up here. One is a film review that I recommend you watch, and the other is a playlist based on today's reviews.